Hello, everyone, and welcome to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night here on ADC Sports Dallas, here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network. The Thursday night football is 7-7 Packers at Cardinals. I'm going to have to ask for technical support here because I did not plug in the computer. So let me ask for my PC charger. Let me see if I can get some help over here. What is up, everyone? Thank you for joining the show. This is ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. We have a lot to talk about regarding Dak Prescott and the injury that he's dealing with, because we were so sure about the Cowboys getting it done on time for Dak Prescott to play on Sunday night. Suddenly, it does not look like that it is as certain of a fact, according to the betting markets, for example, not at least. So I have here my technical support. I appreciate you. We were struggling with that PC battery, man. Just when I started streaming, that sign popped up regarding the battery on this computer. All right, so now that more of you guys are here, let's get ready to start the show officially. So welcome to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network. With a lot more content coming throughout the entire Cowboys season, check out adcsports.com/Dallas for more Cowboys content, for more Mavericks content, and of course, the shows. We'll still every morning, myself every night, here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. And man, that was a rocky beginning to the show with the computer battery thing, but we are ready to go. And we need to talk about Dak Prescott. What is up, Ninja, over at the YouTube chat? Thank you for being here. Make sure you like that video. And of course, share the show if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Let your friends know that you're watching ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Now, Adrian, with the question that we all have right now. Dak out, line took a 4-point swing. All right, so before we begin with the betting market conversation, let's talk about what we know about Dak Prescott. And honestly, there is just a lot of information out there. Here are the four main sticking points to me, the 4 bullet points that I would tell someone about if they were asking me about Dak Prescott's availability. Because the truth of the matter is that we don't know. We truly don't know if Dak Prescott will suit up on Sunday night versus the Vikings or not. And the Cowboys have been a little bit cryptic, like Ninja said in the chat. They have been ambiguous, and we really don't know what is going on there. So here are the 3 bullet points, in my opinion, that are the most important ones to keep in mind. Number 1 is Jerry Jones telling 105.3 to fan earlier in the week that he was very encouraged by Dak Prescott's progress in his rehab as we head into week 8 of the regular season. Now, it was earlier on the week. Maybe we had not seen Dak Prescott practice yet, but I will tell you why I feel that is important. People will criticize Jerry Jones for being as open as he is to the media. People will criticize Jerry Jones for sometimes speaking over Mike McCarthy, the head coach. But the truth of the matter is that usually what Jerry Jones says on air or on the record, it is pretty accurate. Jerry Jones is usually more right about that information that comes out. So there is that. We can criticize Jerry for a lot of reasons, but he is honest usually, right? So that to me has some weight on this conversation. And the question, of course, as always, is from 1 to 10. How convinced are you that Dak Prescott is playing on Sunday night? That is a question for the chat. That is the number 1 bullet point that I would mention in this conversation. Number two is the fact that the Cowboys said that it would be, and Dak Prescott said it in an interview, that it would be a Saturday decision. Dak Prescott has practiced as a limited participant on Wednesday and Thursday, which brings us to the number three most important point, in my opinion, which is that Dak Prescott said that if the decision was his, then he would be able to play. But he said that, of course, the experts need to weigh in. The doctors have a say on this. The coaches have a say on this. But he did say that he pushed it on Thursday during practice. They asked him if he was at 75% or doing the drills at 50%. And Dak Prescott mentioned that he had pushed it because he wanted to figure out if something was going to happen or not. So if Dak Prescott really gave it 100% during practice and nothing happened to him, that has to be significant because it is what Dak Prescott wanted to learn, and he learned it some way or another. So I think all of that is pretty significant. Now, I see that the answers are kind of mixed in the chat. From 1 to 10, how convinced are you that Dak Prescott is playing on Sunday night? Ninja goes with an 8. Stevie Mac goes with a 7.5. Brian 5, LD 8, 50-50 says Adrian. Now, it is weird because everything that we have seen on the field or that reporters have reported on regarding Dak Prescott's performance on the field has been positive. Reports are out there saying that Dak Prescott is not favoring one leg or the other. Reports are out there saying that Prescott should be ready to go if this was a playoff game. So he is physically able to play. If he doesn't, this is just the team being as cautious as they can in order to avoid this being a problem, a bigger problem down the road. But if you think about those points that I just mentioned, like that has to be very important if we are evaluating whether Dak can go on Sunday night or not. Now, Dak said that it was not his decision, that it was the team's decision, the coaches and the doctor's decision. But to be honest, do you think that Dak Prescott does not have a say on this? Because I think that he does. Tom Brady rarely misses a football game, and he plays hurt just about every time that he can play hurt, he does. And he recently did so on a short week with a sore thumb, and he was still out there playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Big-time quarterbacks have been doing this for a long time, and I think that Dak Prescott will do everything in his power to be on that football field today. So my answer to the question, before today, I would have said 10. Now it feels like an 8, and it's not because of what the Dallas Cowboys have said publicly or Mike McCarthy saying that the Cowboys are actually considering having 3 active quarterbacks for game day, including Will Grier. But it is what has happened in the betting markets, and that has really been just really weird to see. The Cowboys opened as 1-point favorites, and it quickly went to 2.5. And we discussed this last week on Thursday episode, actually exactly 1 week ago, that the Cowboys were 2.5-point favorites over the Minnesota Vikings. That number at some point dropped to -1 yesterday. And if you take a look at the odds for this game, you will see that the Cowboys are now 2.5 points underdogs. So the Cowboys went from being -2.5 to +2.5. That is significant line movement, specifically because it was abrupt, right? Like if you take a look at that graph that I'm showing on the screen, you see the entire line history, and that is a strong movement for this game. The Vikings now home favorites versus the Cowboys. Does that mean something or not? That would be my question. Because then the flip side of it is, and you will tell me what you believe in the chat, but if this line movement was due to the fact that Dak Prescott is not playing, would the Cowboys really be 2.5 underdogs on the road versus the Vikings? Because I think that number would be higher if that was the case. Like if Dak Prescott was officially out, hypothetically, wouldn't the Cowboys be +4 or maybe even +5 without Dak? Because that Vikings offense is likely to perform versus the Cowboys defense. They are a good unit. So are you betting on Cooper Rush keeping it a 3-point game? I don't think. I think that if Dak Prescott's status was him being ruled out officially, the Vikings would be favored by more points. They wouldn't be only 2.5-point favorites. That's how I feel regarding these games. So I think this line movement does not happen just because, right? Vegas knows something, or I don't like to call it Vegas anymore because New Jersey is the betting state now. If you take a look at the numbers and the records and everything, New Jersey are the new sheriffs in town when it comes to the betting markets. But this movement does not happen just because. But at the same time, as I said, I don't think that the Cowboys would be 2.5-point underdogs if Dak Prescott was not playing. If officially out, says Adrian Padilla, yes, -5. I would agree with that. Now, this isn't about money being poured into the Vikings, in my opinion, unless it is sharp money, because I can assure you that the Cowboys are the public favorite. The Cowboys are always the public favorite in the betting world because they are, after all, America's team. And at least before today, per actionnetwork.com, 80% of the bets were on the Dallas Cowboys. So this would either have to be an overreaction to what the Cowboys had publicly said about Dak Prescott's status today, or it could simply be that the betting market said, you know what, the sharp said this line is wrong and the Cowboys are a better team than given credit for, and then some sharp money coming into Minnesota and then the sports books adjusting. It's one of those two things, likely. But I have to say that I feel less confident about Dak Prescott being ready to go Sunday night than I did before today. And it's my biggest questions come from the movement in the betting market. I still think that Dak Prescott is going to play, though. And if you ask me why I still think that Dak is suiting up on Sunday night, I would go back to what we said just a few moments ago. He is practicing as a limited participant, but he's out there and he's practicing. He said that he pushed it today and nothing happened. So I think that he was pushing it in case something did. And that should tell you something about where Dak Prescott is. Then Amari Cooper saying that, hey, in my opinion, he's the same guy. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be ready to go. And honestly, Dak Prescott is going to try his best to be on that football field, and he's going to plead his case to this Cowboys coaching staff. And some will say the Cowboys are better off taking care of him, thinking about the big picture, and thinking about just taking care of that quarterback. But I will tell you something. The big picture includes sitting in the National Football Conference. And every game matters a lot for the Dallas Cowboys, because some people will say, hey, the division is locked up for the Dallas Cowboys. He can afford to lose a game or two. But hey, if he can go, he will go, because the Cowboys, if they're looking at the big picture, as they're saying publicly, then they're also thinking about having that home field advantage in the playoffs or potentially fighting for the bye week, because that goes a long way when it comes to performance in January and potentially reaching the National Football Conference championship game or even the Super Bowl. Ruglock says if Mike McCarthy has it his way, he wants all these questions up in the air as long as Jerry doesn't come out and tell all. LOL, says Ruglock. I agree. And usually, we get some Jerry Jones quotes on Friday. So if Jerry has a 105.3 fan appearance tomorrow and he speaks on Dak Prescott and he tells us that he's ready to go, then there's no question about it. He's ready to go. Earlier on the week, as we were talking about earlier, he said that he was very encouraged by where Dak Prescott was at. And I think that means something, because usually Jerry is spot on when it comes to players' availability. Ninja says that's a good approach, LD. And I think that he was replying to LD Williams, who's saying, I'm not worrying about this until we get a formal announcement that Dak is out. But I think it is worth talking about this because, as I said, this line movement does not happen because of any reason, right? I'm still betting on Dak Prescott being ready to go for Sunday night. But this at least needs to raise an eyebrow or two. It is kind of weird to see these movements in the betting world, especially on a Thursday. He's usually too honest, says Rue Glock, regarding Jerry Jones. I agree with that. I'll be cheering for the Giants this weekend. Super weird, but I hate the Chiefs more, says Ninja. That is weird indeed. That is weird indeed. Now, Joshua has a point. Maybe this is just the Dallas Cowboys playing mind games with the media. But if this was the case, I think that the betting markets would be smart enough to not overreact the way they are apparently doing. I'm still betting on Dak playing on Sunday night. I'm still out. Shout out to the Facebook audience, by the way. Bernard saying, hey, do not worry about that. Let him play. They will be all right because they got Trevon Diggs. And, of course, Trevon Diggs has been a huge part of the Cowboys' success. Now, this all brings us to the Betting the Cowboys segment that we usually have here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. As you all know, every Thursday before the game, we have the Betting the Cowboys segment. We are 5-1 in the season, just like the Dallas Cowboys. And we have been backing the Cowboys heavily on the show because I think that the betting spreads have been very favorable for the Dallas Cowboys. Plus 9 points in week 1 versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. We took the points. We lost on week 2 when we went with the team total over for the Dallas Cowboys. And then we went on a 4-win streak in the betting world. And here we are once again ready to bet on the Cowboys, I think. I know that we are not fully convinced about Dak Prescott playing on Sunday night, but I think that he will. And this bet is more about Dak Prescott's status than it is about the actual game. If you are a sports bettor, you know that you need to think about value. This is not only about predicting the right outcome. You have to find value in your bets. So I'm not sure if I like my value at minus 110 odds on the Dallas Cowboys plus 2.5. So we'll take a little bit of a riskier bet on this week's Betting the Cowboys. We'll take advantage of what could be an overreaction by the betting market, and we'll actually go with the Cowboys money line. We will give up the points in order to get better odds in our bet. So I will go with the Cowboys money line plus 125. And full disclosure, because I've said this time and time again, and I don't want to seem like a homer, but if the opportunity comes when we believe that the best bet to make on a Cowboys game is backing the other team, we will do so. So you have to know that at least my intention is not to always back the Cowboys on this segment. But for the seventh time this season, I will do so. I will back the Dallas Cowboys. Only this time, I will try to get the better odds, plus 125 Cowboys money line. Let's see if we can continue that winning streak on the Betting the Cowboys segment. I'm going with the Cowboys this week. I considered the Cowboys team total under, thinking about maybe that Dak Prescott being a little bit more limited. It could mean that the Cowboys throw the ball a little bit less, but I decided not to do so because this might be a shootout. This might be a big-time shootout between the Vikings and the Cowboys. And if Dak Prescott plays Sunday night, I don't think that the Cowboys will hold him back. I think that if he ends up playing and this becomes a shootout, the Cowboys will go all in. And if that means Dak Prescott dropping back 50 times, then I think they will do so if he ends up playing. LD says, you're making great points and doing your job to point out all the news and the flip-flop that we are hearing. It's making the betting world and Cowboys world crazy. Thank you to LD, and thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. APJ says, hey, believe in Cooper Rush. Come on, let's go. I just can't. I'm not going to believe in Cooper Rush. I will tell you that. If the Cowboys do not play Dak Prescott on Sunday night, I'm picking the Vikings to win the football game. I think that the Vikings are legit. And I've said this since last week. And I think that even with Dak Prescott, the Vikings have a chance at winning this game because they are a legit football team. Let's keep that in mind. I would never put faith in Raj, the playmakers making up for him. Hey, shout out to Steve White, by the way. He's a huge Cooper Rush fan, and I'm not entirely sure that he's rooting for Dak Prescott to play. I'm just kidding, but I know that Stephen White likes Cooper Rush, and he's the only Cowboys fan that we know that has a Cooper Rush jersey. Cardinals messed up a punt return. Big Thursday night today, by the way. Big Thursday night. All right, so having talked about the Dak Prescott injury and our thoughts on it, and having talked about the betting the Cowboys segment, it is time for the blind recap of the Cowboys-Vikings game. If you are new to Primetime, here's how it works. We recap the game without having watched it first. So this is our prediction, but as if we were recapping it on Monday morning. So the question for the chat is, what is your final score prediction, Cowboys at Vikings? What is your final score prediction for this week's game? Do the Cowboys extend their winning streak, or do the Vikings pull off the upset at home versus the Dallas Cowboys? Here is my blind recap of the Vikings-Cowboys game here on ADC Sports Primetime. In the midst of uncertainty, Dak Prescott not only played, but had to be a hero for the Dallas Cowboys. In a performance reminiscent of his Week 1 game versus the Tampa Bay Bucks, Dak attempted more than 50 passes on his way to a 400-yard performance. Cowboys 33, Vikings 31, after KJ Osborne racked up close to 100 yards for the Vikings offense. That is my blind recap. I have the Cowboys winning 33-31. I think that Dak Prescott will play. That is the assumption that I'm working with, and that is my final prediction for the game. Now, as I said, if this ends up being wrong and Dak Prescott does not play on Sunday night, then I would take the Vikings. I'm not ready to trust Cooper Rush in this spot. Someone told me earlier today, hey, but the Vikings, we beat the Vikings even without Dak back in 2020. But I think this is a different Vikings team, and we have talked about this all week long. They're playing more in 11 personnel. They have 3 wide receivers to target. They have Dalvin Cook, and maybe not the most efficient running game, but they can still, get it together, I believe, versus the Dallas Cowboys, because the Cowboys have struggled at times in that front. I think that the Vikings are legit. I think that they're better than their record indicates. And I think that Kirk Cousins is playing at least like a top 12 quarterback. And you can even make the argument that he's playing this season so far as a top 10 quarterback. He's finding Thielen. He's finding Jefferson. He's finding KJ Osborne. They have a top 3 pass defense. And even without Patrick Peterson, they have some good things to talk about. They're switching things up way more. Before they played only with split safeties. Now they're showing a lot of single high defensive looks. So I think that this Vikings team is a legitimate threat. And if Dak Prescott is not ready to go, I think that you have to pick the Vikings to win the football game. And that is why I believe that this line movement, and I know that I've already said this, but I will say it again for those of you who are just tuning in. Even though this line movement is very significant, if Dak Prescott was officially out, I think that the number would be way higher for the Minnesota Vikings. I think that this would be a betting spread closer to the 5 number, right? Maybe -4.5, maybe even -4, but -2.5 seems like a very low number if the Cowboys do not have Dak Prescott on Sunday night. So I understand where the uncertainty is coming from. The Cowboys have definitely been cryptic, but yeah. Joshua says, Mauricio, come on, Cowboys all the way. Without Dak Prescott, I cannot pick the Cowboys. I'm sorry. But I'm picking the Cowboys because I believe that number 4 will be on that football on Sunday night. I think that Dak plays, and I think that the offense can get it going. But I have a close matchup. I have it 33-31. Now, some more comments in the chat, some game predictions. BNC Gaming has it a high game for the Cowboys, 40 points to 10. 24-17, David C. going with a lower score. Gregory, 27-21, Dallas. Joshua saying 31-28. Adrian, 31-23, assuming Dak plays. Cowboys, people going with the Cowboys. Lunatic says Cowboys going to beat the skull out of Kirk Cousins and the Vikings in Halloween night. 31-23. 27-26. Dallas Young has it a little bit closer. So a lot of scoreboards favoring the Dallas Cowboys. Ray Hecker over at Facebook saying 34-24. Cook has been injured also. Yes, sir. 2017. a lot of different scoreboards out here. Micah will have 2 sacks as Dan Quinn will blitz him up in the middle of the Minnesota offensive line, which is their weakness. And Kirk Cousins has struggled versus the pressure. Contrary to Dak, Kirk Cousins has struggled versus the blitz, right? 27-24 for me, says Primetime Phil. Troy agrees with the line movements in Vegas, as we were talking about earlier on the show. 34-16, Dallas Cowboys with Dak. If Dak plays, we're beating the brakes of those dudes, says Ninja. If he doesn't, it might be a squeaker. So I think that we all agree that if Dak Prescott plays, we're picking the Cowboys. But if Dak does not play, you got to go with the Vikings, I believe, because they're a legit NFL team, and I'm going to give them that respect. I think he plays, though. I think he plays. I understand the line movement, but, man, he's practicing. He was 100% today, according to Dak Prescott, and I believe that he's telling the truth. And I believe what Jerry Jones has been saying, at least earlier on the week. Tomorrow will be a big day. If Jerry Jones gets an appearance on 105.3 The Fan, man, it will be big for the Cowboys fan base to listen to that show, I believe, if he does give an interview. And if not, maybe we have to wait until Saturday. But if Jerry speaks on this topic, man, what Jerry says goes. I believe that he always tells the truth when he does speak on player status. We might not like that he does it, but he is very honest on that front. No, I still go with my Cowboys. Our defense will win the game for us, says Eleazar. So Eleazar is betting on the Cowboys even without Dak Prescott, even if he ends up not playing and missing the game. Well, everyone, that is it for me tonight. Thank you for joining the show. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting ADC Sports Dallas Primetime as always. Make sure you check out adcsports.com/Dallas, though, for more Cowboys content and more Mavericks content. Make sure you check that out. Tomorrow, I have my Cowboys in Spanish post as every Friday in case you're interested in that. And I will also have some more thoughts on the betting spread movement tomorrow morning at adcsports.com/Dallas. Excuse me. So, Lunatic says, Morrow, Halloween or Dia de los Muertos? That is an interesting question because, as you guys know, I'm from Mexico, but I've always celebrated Halloween as well. I've always enjoyed Halloween and dressing up and the costumes and everything. And Dia de los Muertos, ironically, has not been a very big tradition in my family. Maybe that has to do a little bit with religion as well. But I like Dia de los Muertos, and even though I don't celebrate it directly, I think that it is a very cool portion of Mexican culture. And I love Mexican culture, as you guys know. I didn't pick against them when we played Tampa. I'm not about to pick against them now. I respect that, Ninja. You know, though, that here in Primetime, you know that we are always super objective. Like, I will never pick a Cowboys game here on the show based on what my heart is telling me to, man. I will always give you my most objective picks here on Primetime. So, we get to celebrate both. I agree with Lunatic. So, thank you guys for joining the show. Make sure you smash that like button. Share the show if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Let your friends know about ADC Sports Dallas Primetime, and let's grow this community. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you on Monday night. Because the Cowboys are playing on Sunday night, so you will get the game day experience with Skywalker Steele and Jesse Holly on Sunday night. So we are off on Primetime on Sunday, but I will see you guys Monday night at 8 p.m. Central here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Thank you guys, and see you.